Welcome to the Perspectives Podcast. Josue here. As most of you guys probably heard, I'm from the Democratic Republic of Congo. I attended the Oral Roberts University. I preach at times. I'm not really sure. And to my right, we have Mr. Chase Brown. He was born in Texas, I believe. He attended the University of North Texas.
Not a boy.
He's an aspiring philanthropic creative, and he likes very long walks on the beach. Why? I have no idea. We're still trying to figure that out. But Chase, how you doing?
Doing good, bro.
Yeah.
Since I got one of those long walks on the
You
beach.
You did. You felt like at home, so it was just...
Well, actually, I should say long run in on the beach. Yvonne in the back there tried to kill me this morning.
Yeah.
Going on a run.
Yvonne's an athlete.
It was insane. Yeah. Former soccer player. I'm just a lacrosse player over here. I could barely keep up.
You're an athlete too, man.
But I'm breathing. So how are you, man?
I'm good, man. I just had Korean barbecue not too long ago. It reminded me of back home in Africa. That was a joke. You don't eat Korean barbecue. We'll edit that part out. But other than that, everything's great.
Hey.
You know, so as most of you guys probably already know, whenever we have a podcast, we usually try to bring on a very special guest. And today we have a 5-time social media
NBA All-Star.
The 5-time voted funniest guy on social media by a group to be determined at some point.
Yeah.
That is also false. Oh, to be determined. Okay.
Yeah.
We're still trying to figure it out. Like
potentially.
Yeah.
Maybe.
We can see.
I tell jokes sometimes. I guess we could say that.
They land 99% of the time.
Wow.
Something like that. Yeah.
That's okay. Well,
that's a very high.
That's kind of
because now people won't expect you to be funny.
Don't. Where's this going?
We got a friend of some of our friends, Kirby, Tadashi, Chi-Chi. Street Hymns, because I don't think we could drop his legal on here.
You can't. He'll have us edit that part out.
So you'd know him.
That man evaded taxes, bro. He's definitely
evading taxes.
Hey,
wait, hold on.
Legally evading taxes. There are legal ways.
Let's not
How
say
do you
his
do that?
secrets.
It's like some forms, C something. I forgot what it is, where you could like... Never mind. It's a whole other conversation.
Yeah. We need to figure that out.
Yeah,
he's very intelligent. That's all I
need that. I need that. You know him.
Yeah.
I think everyone loves him because he's probably the most likable guy in the world. It is the Chaz Smith.
Thank you.
So
y'all speaking like extra highly.
Yeah.
That's a lot. Don't expect too much. Just let me be me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Y'all, I like the synergy.
Yeah.
No, I'm doing really well. I love my life. It's great. I mean, not to give like super Christian answer, but you know, I enjoy the life that God has given. You know, the whole. All right, just go ahead. Say whatever you're gonna say next.
Yeah.
I'm well.
So good.
Simple answer.
I'm glad to hear you're well, man. That's great. So we're glad to have you on. It's something that whenever we knew we were coming out here to LA, everyone that we talked to was like, you got to get this guy on.
Who are these people?
And
I had one of my friends message me on Instagram. She was like, hey, you know this guy? You should have him on your podcast. And I sent the little emoji with the guy sweating. You guys know the emoji. And I was like, yeah, we're going to be in LA soon. Hope we'll have him on. And so she was very excited. So I don't know who else.
Yeah. So it's going to be a lot of fun. And I'm really looking forward to the conversation because before the podcast, you know, we were talking about some things going on in life, some fun things, some things going on. And it'll be a good conversation, kind of get your thoughts on some of the topics and just kind of see where it goes. And so we can just kind of dive, I think, right into it.
Yeah.
Like kind of one of the things we were thinking about, which I'm glad because I think the Holy Spirit kind of led us to like this topic is the idea of apathy and the struggle that I think a lot of people are having right now with apathy and just being unmotivated, whether it's in business, whether it's in entrepreneurship, whether it's in faith, whether it's in fitness. I know I'm struggling with that right now, trying to keep off of those cookies in the back. But it's
we're getting to that age where like we can't just eat whatever.
No, it hits you and you're just like, ooh.
Because you get in there, metabolism's going down, and it's something that I think especially with what 2020 brought in terms of staying at home and things like that, the apathy is something that a lot of people could be going through. So kind of just opening it up from there, like, is apathy something that you've struggled with from time to time?
Definitely.
Anything you want to share and just kind of be vulnerable about with that?
Yeah, man. even you just mentioning that, you know, a lot of the struggles that so many people have gone through because of what 2020 brought, you know, losing jobs, losing family, losing opportunities. Like it's tough. Like it's hard not to have compassion for where people are at. But I think one thing that it really did, and I think a reason why this apathy that you're talking about came about is because so all the distractions being stripped away and opportunities and things that kind of just, you know, shield us or take our minds off of what matters most truly just revealed where our hearts were really at and where our treasures really are.
Yeah.
For me personally, last year did a great job of of God just leading me to see where some of my desires were off, where I've gotten off track with, you know, just being on social media. I never really intended to have a large following. That wasn't my goal in getting on social media. I feel like I always tell people I kind of just stumbled into it on Vine. Like I'm just like, oh, this is fun. Let me make these. And then all of a sudden, people from all over the world are saying water Malone. So I'm like, what is this?
Is water wet?
Yeah, like, and then that came later. But from the time I was, and I'm going to bring it back to the question, but from the time I was like 12 or 13, my desire was to like have influence, have fame, have success, but not for my own sake, but to be able to reach as many people as possible and point them to Christ. That's always been my desire. Or at least that's what it really was initially. But once I started to pick up a following and see these numbers and followers and results and stuff like that, it became easier and easier to focus on those things and focus on pleasing people and, you know, doing what works rather than doing what's most important or what matters most or where my heart's really at. Like it, without having a strong why and remembering the reason why you're doing something, it's kind of like trying to build with no foundation, and that emptiness is where the apathy comes from. Like that empty foundation. It's like, you know, building your house on sand. You know, it's just there's no true substance there. So with making some successful videos and seeing them do well, it becomes like, okay, now what's the next successful video I can make that will really like get to people, rather than what do people really need. And so recently, even with over the past week, I was just reminded that, okay, hold on, I'm doing this because I want to give something to people that will point them back to the Lord, or just, even if it's just entertaining or joking, like to do something that has greater substance, and remembering my why gives the other stuff more purpose. And but without the core reason, without really being aware of what your vision is and what God's calling on your life is, or just losing sight of that, apathy becomes very easy to fall into because your heart won't really be in what you're doing otherwise. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I mean, we even see sometimes it's, you know, you post something on social media, for example, whether it's a picture, a video, but you don't get the numbers, quote unquote, that you're looking for. And so what do? You take it down, right? So that's for people who, you know, may not have, God may not have given them the same amount of following that you may have. So how do you fight that temptation of always wanting to be successful for numbers' sake versus still wanting to lean in, because you mentioned you want to do it to bring glory to God, right? How do you fight that temptation of doing those two things?
Yeah, that's been very interesting for me, because over the past year, 15 months, I've actually lost, I want to say like over 60,000 followers on Instagram. And I'm like, and it's been, I've let it really, in a lot of ways, control the type of stuff that I post, or like cause me to just overthink so much and be so concerned about, you know, numbers and engagement, following. Oh, how can I keep this up? And again, taking me away from the reason I'm doing this in the first place. And like that desire I mentioned earlier about wanting to do this to reach as many people as possible, can easily be misconstrued and like shifted into just numbers rather than my goal being to reach and impact individual people. So getting back to that, and having that understanding, when I post something that doesn't perform as well, rather than seeing like the gap in engagement, what I am seeing is like the few individual people who are being impacted by it, or like whose day is being brightened by it, or who I'm able to help encourage through it.
Yeah.
So remembering that this is about people, not numbers.
Dang, that's so good. Because I think especially us, I don't want to say this is only us as men that can struggle with this, but maybe uniquely is, I know like psychological studies have showed that men tend to be more oriented around things, and women tend to be more oriented around people on like on a very general level. And so that's why men tend to go in fields like engineering and mathematics, things like that, in STEM fields, and women tend to go into things like nursing, teaching, stuff like that. It's kind of like psychological kind of just preferences and things like that. And so I think it's interesting because we talked with Pat about this earlier in terms of the definition of success, and how, you know, for him, it's been something where the Father's really like sunk into him, like, hey, like success, it's a weird word to use in the first place as a Christian, because like from there, yeah, we can say our success is our faithfulness, but then from there, like, how about we just cut out a step and just be like, hey, I just want to be faithful. I don't care about being successful or things like that. But that's a different topic. But it's something that I think us as men, we try to maybe prove our worth or our value and our competence based on quantity and numbers that we're doing and all that kind of stuff, whether it's a salary, whether it's views, whether it's number of friends, like whatever it is.
Or just affirmation even.
Yeah.
Exactly. And maybe even from there, like it can be a pride thing as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Of that. And so maybe for you, in the midst of being more in the public sphere than what most people I would say are, and the struggle of finding your identity in that, in terms of how you are to these people and how they view you. And maybe this is connected to kind of apathy struggles. I'm not sure. You can go full circle with that if you want. But what has it been like to affirm your identity in the Father and Jesus and who he's called you to be as a son of his? Like, what's that been like?
This whole sonship thing, man. Okay, I'll go back to the beginning. I grew up going to church. My parents would take me to children's church when I was young. We'd attend church, but I really do feel that I knew God from a really young age. And there were different points in my life where there was another step of it becoming more personal, of knowing him more personally. But in spite of that, like just growing up in a very performance-based culture, going to school that was very competitive regarding grades, playing sports and being an athlete growing up, being praised for like what I do, it became very like I've developed a very this performance-based mindset. And that and other factors tied into God's pleasure in me being predicated upon how well I perform, like having more of a servant mindset rather than a sonship mindset. Like, okay, I'm a believer, I'm a Christian, you love me, but am I doing well enough for you to really be pleased with me?
Right.
You know, rather than just understanding that I'm a son first and he is pleased with me as a son. Of course, like we want to be obedient and do what pleases him, but that should come from a place of knowing that we're already loved. And what really blessed me with that, especially over these past like few years, is something I've really been learning, was the parable about the lost son. What hit me so hard, there was a pastor I heard preaching about it, was in that parable, Jesus is saying how like there's a dude who runs off and does all this stuff that's just in Jewish culture seen as so horrible, like the worst stuff you could do. And then he's like, all right, I've come to the end of myself. I'm gonna just get up and go back to my dad. Like I don't have anywhere else to go. Like I'm over here struggling for food, but how like satisfied and full are the servants in my dad's house. I'm just telling him I'm not even worthy to be a son anymore, and just tell him to make me a servant. So he goes, and as he's on the way, like we know Jesus says the Father runs out to meet him there. Like before they even said a word, like the Father's already running to meet him there. But the kid's still in this mindset of like, oh, I did wrong, therefore I am wrong. I acted in unworthy ways, therefore I am an unworthy person, and that's my identity, and therefore I deserve to be treated that way. So he goes, he tells his dad, like, look, I'm trash, I suck. He's condemning himself, shame, guilt, all this stuff. Just treat me like one of your servants, because that's how I've acted, therefore I deserve to be treated that way. And the father's like, yo, come get this dude a robe, a ring, like wash him up. We about to have a whole celebration, a feast and all that. And like, it's just this idea that, and even like with his other son who was serving and doing all these things, like he had the wrong mindset, but in the other direction, where he's like, okay, I'm doing all these things. Why haven't you ever celebrated me? And on the other end, it's like, oh, I did all these horrible things, therefore I don't deserve to be celebrated. But it's not about what we do. It's about the fact that we already belong to God. If we've confessed Christ and we have the Holy Spirit, we are children of God, and that is first. We are sons first. We are daughters first. We're servants second. Like that comes after. And so what this whole proving myself has looked like for me and learning what my identity is been like a process of really understanding that God just loves me so much, and he looks at me with joy and delight, and he chose me. I did not save myself. He chose me. So I can rest in knowing that he's going to keep me. And from that place of love, I get to just rest and sit with him and run with him and do what pleases him, because I'm like, yo, this is my dad. My dad loves me. What? Yeah, I'm gonna go do whatever I can to share that love with people. So yeah, practically last year I was doing a lot to try to prove myself. Without even really realizing it, honestly. Started a lot of things because either I felt like I should be doing them, or I felt like I would be successful at them, or I knew I'd get affirmation from them in some way. But once I realized, like, it was just, I burned myself out, and it came to the point where I was like, dag, I really was doing all this stuff out of pride. And like the curtains were pulled back, and I was able to see how, it was kind of just fluff. And so even like that's been a major process of learning this sonship thing. Like we are adopted, and adopted children do not choose their parents. The parents choose them.
Yeah. And I wonder if like, even in the things last year that you were successful with, if in seeing that, you know, if those were, and I mean, I think this goes for all of us, because I know I see this in myself, definitely. Even if we succeed in things that are pursued in a wrong perspective, in that performative perspective, rather than from a place of sonship, then from there, I think we see that, oh, this isn't going to satisfy me. And then from there, then that could go into that kind of cycle of apathy of, even if we're being seen as being like worldly successful, then from there, it's like, you know, people think we're all good, but on the inside, it's just like, oh, wait, because I'm not operating from like the proper position with the Father. It's like, even if I'm getting what I want, that still could be ending up in apathy if it's coming from like the wrong perspective.
Did y'all read Ecclesiastes? Did y'all read that book? No, y'all know that book. I think he says a little. I think he says a little something about all that.
Uncle Solomon. He talks about that in there. I mean, I think even just to that point, Yvonne probably knows this, but back in my college career, I had a pretty booming social media career as well. But I had to shut that down because I was needing to focus on other things. But how do you, I guess, even to the, I'm not really sure if it's apathy or not, but how do you kind of deal with the thought of wanting to keep something, your content Christian, or just creating content, right? Because there are Christians that are like, yo, if you're a Christian, every video should be Jesus, 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 versus you just wanting to make a video laughing about something.
Oh, man. I've had some great conversations with Jake about this, but I'm going to tell a story real quick because I love it so much. Oh, my gosh. I was at CC's Pizza one time in Chicago.
Are those still around?
I think they went bankrupt, but shout out to
Oh.
CC's for
Yeah,
all
shout
the
out to
lunches.
I'm
them,
so
yeah.
thankful that I got to go before they shut down
Yeah.
because this
Shout out
like
to them, yeah.
this story really impacted me. I was at CC's Pizza. If people don't know what that is, it's basically like a buffet but pizza. Yeah, so I was there.
Yeah.
And I got my food. I was with one friend in Chicago. I got my food first, so I went over to like find a booth to sit down at. There's one booth I saw spaced out enough, like away from people, whatever. And I was getting ready to sit down, and then a man who was like walking through. I don't want to call him a busboy. I feel like there's a disrespectful term, but he was like walking through cleaning tables.
Yeah.
I was about to sit down. He got to the table before me to wipe it off. So I was just ready to sit down and eat. I was mad hungry. All right, I was about to chomp down. All right. So this dude takes out. He pulls up his cart. He kind of nods at me, gives me a little wave. Like, hi, how you doing? I'm sitting here on my tray. Let me just wait for him to wipe the table off real quick. I'll be good. So he grabs this rag and like pulls it out. No, before he does that, he grabs like a dry rag and like wipes all the crumbs off the table from the last people who were eating there. And I was like, all right, thank you. I was about to sit down. And then he pulls out another rag, like a wet one, and like shakes it out a little bit, folds it twice, like over itself, wrings it, and made sure he got like every last bit of excess water out, lays it gently on the table, spreads it out, starts wiping down every corner of the table slowly, firmly. I was like, dang, he really going, like, just like, come on, hurry up. It's not that serious. I just want to sit down and eat. It's all good. And he finishes that. He puts that back. I'm like, all right, now I can sit down. And then he takes out another cloth, starts drying the table down. I'm like, yo, this dude is taking forever. Why is he taking his time with this table like this? Like, it's just going to get dirty again. Like this, I've never seen somebody clean a table this pristinely before. And he like, keeps going. And at this point, I'm intrigued.
Yeah.
So I'm like, who would have any reason to clean a table like that? Like, why? And as he's wiping it down, he like, by the way, he dried it off and then sprayed it with something else and starts wiping it down again, not missing a single inch of this table. And after that, he wiped down the seats. And I'm thinking to myself, like, I really, like, a thought popped in my mind. I was like, yo, is this dude a Christian? Like, for real. He's wiping his table as if Jesus himself is about to sit down here at this CC's Pizza to smash some, like, meat lovers or something. You know, like, this is wild. And so our friend sat down. I really was thinking, like, I really wonder if this dude was saved. So I told him about what happened. He's like, yo, let's just ask him. So next time he walked by, he's like, excuse me, sir, do you know Jesus? And he's like, he was speaking in broken English. I think he was from Mexico. He was like, and it was on a Sunday that we were there. He's like, yeah, I can't go to church because I work on Sundays, but yes, I pray, I read my Bible, and I love the Lord. And I was just like, yo, this man did this with such a level of excellence that I saw God's glory through him wiping down a table. A freaking table, bro. Yeah. And like, it made me think about Joseph too. Like it says that when he was in Potiphar's house, he did everything with such excellence that this Egyptian man who worshipped all these false gods straight up said, your God is with you. You must know Yahweh because of the favor that's on your life and how excellently you do everything. So to answer your question about doing Christian things, I'd say go with your convictions and what you're called to do. But if you are a janitor, wipe the mess out of freaking tables and that's going to glorify and honor God. Like, is this table Christian? No. Like, there's no, like, faith assigned to the table. But by seeing how excellently something is made or created, I think that gives glory to our Creator because we're living and doing as He does. He created everything with excellence. He created us with excellence. You know how many organs we have? Yeah. How everything needs to be functioning on point for us to just sustain a breath. We can't even think. We don't even have any control over our lungs, but like He's done everything in such excellence. Even just the fact that life exists, like how specifically everything has to be for a single protein, like a single like DNA strand to come into existence. Yeah. All the factors that have to be precise and exact, and so to such an excellent point for life to exist is just. So when we move in like that same desire to be excellent in what we do, whether we're preaching the gospel or shining somebody's shoes or singing a song, do it all to God's glory. Like Colossians 3, right? Something like that. Yeah. So for me personally, I've like gone back and forth between, okay, what am I really convicted to do? What am I called to do? Because I've had a desire to preach and straight up share the word and like teach people, but I know I'm not called to be a pastor or at least a preacher in this season of my life. We're all called to preach the gospel, but that's not like my profession. God has really blessed me with favor to make people laugh and bring joy to them and share his heart through different means. So I've struggled a lot. That's been even harder to figure out, okay, which lane do I go in? And only recently have I been, I guess, coming to some more solid answers with that. But ultimately, the answer that I'm at right now, the place I'm at right now, is to let the content that I create be an overflow of what he pours into me. And it's kind of like a day-to-day thing. It's hard for me to have like a clear vision of everything he wants me to do, but I think he kind of wants it that way, because that way I'm like even more dependent on him and close to him. Yeah, I think I'd say that's a sufficient answer.
No, that was a great answer.
And a great story.
That was a great story too.
That dude is... And now, like, every time I share this story, people will know about. I don't even know his name, but he's gonna be so honored for that in heaven. Like, just that one moment that he just, like, he could have chosen. You know, I don't feel like wiping this table down that much today. I'm just do it real quick, whatever. But the amount of people I've been able to share this story with, who are gonna be blessed by that, like, God sees that that dude's gonna be honored for way more than I will for sharing the story.
I mean, it's crazy because that's very much true. I mean, we don't think that way because it's like, oh, I'm at work. In whatever field God may have you in, we're called to do things with excellence, right? And sometimes we see certain positions, certain jobs as lesser than doing something different, right? But finding somebody who really puts in the time and the effort to make where they're at beautiful, and you seeing that and like, man, is this guy a Christian? Because of the excellency of his work. I mean that's a testimony.
And
right there.
I think that goes back to what you're saying about success too. Like, he was just being obedient with the job God had blessed him with. Like, I don't necessarily think that was his calling to wipe down tables. Maybe it was, but I think that him just being just straight up honoring God with what he has, being faithful with the way that God has provided for him to provide for his family is success. You know, like, it's just saying yes to him in every moment, which is so freaking hard to do, bro. My gosh.
It's amazing.
And also, like, with that, it's just like considering, you know, some people are given more to steward as well and are going to be responsible for more, like scripture talks about. People who are teachers are going to be like way differently than those who aren't. And so if you have less, it doesn't matter. Be faithful with it. If you have more, then you have more responsibility, but be faithful with that too. Like, it's, you know, it's a lot.
Yeah.
But it's different for everybody. It's unique for everybody, but God knows what he's doing with each of us. And it's up to us to just be faithful with who we have.
Yeah, because in Zephaniah it says, do not...
Zephaniah. Whoa. Let me hear this verse. Whoa.
It took out a minor prophet.
Yeah.
I wish I could quote the chapter and the verse, but
man.
I hope Zephaniah, just saying that, is good.
I'm not gonna lie to you. I've never read that book.
It's one of those in the middle.
This man Christian.
Yeah, this is intense. Go ahead. I'm listening.
Once I say the verse, y'all are gonna be like, I remember that. It says, do not despise small beginnings.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, see, there we go. I know that one. We good. We good. You
But-
that one? You know, all right.
It's okay. We'll pray for you after this.
No. Go ahead. I'll say it later. Go ahead.
Have you tested your faith, brother? Do you
I'm
really know?
trying. This verse is testing my faith.
We don't have a pool in the back, but we can go to the
I need
beach
to
and
get
baptize you if you'd like.
I heard some people drip water, so maybe we can make that work.
Hey,
Alex, can you get a bottle of water?
Yeah.
I
Right
got
now.
this right now.
Yeah.
Right now.
But it's so true because man, like whether you're farming 10 square feet or whether you're president of a country, king or queen of a country, like it's something where like God's placed you there so that you can demonstrate his invisible qualities to the world. And so you can honor him, just like Romans says. And it's really cool because I started on the flight over reading Garden City by John Mark Cromer.
Yeah. My friend just recommended it to me.
I've been wanting to read that for forever. Finally was able to crack it open. And in the start of it, he kind of talks about the balance of like work and rest, and the art of being human is a phrase that he uses a lot. And kind of one of the themes of his first couple chapters was, I think a lot would change with our mindset towards things and how we live life if we viewed work, one, as not just what we did as a career, but the rest of the responsibilities that go into what takes it to continue life. Washing the dishes at your house, hanging up your clothes. If you have a wife, taking care of your wife. If you have kids, taking care of them. And so the fact that those are work as well, so that not just your job defines who you are and defines your work, but also viewing work as a blessing rather than a curse, and something that it's a very complex view of it whenever you look at Genesis because of a lot of things. But
and his worship too.
That at the beginning, God created everything. He worked to have everything in creation, and that since we're made in his image, one of the parts of what we're supposed to reflect of his character is work and work ethic and having a good relationship with work. And so it's interesting. I think potentially something that causes a lot of apathy in people is toil and resenting work. And so from there, like not even like results being what is driving that apathy of not getting the results you want or not being satisfied with that, but just hating the process. Because I think you hear it, it's a cliche, but it's kind of true. Fall in love with the process, all that kind of stuff. And if we did, like, I wonder what would change. And it's really interesting. Yeah. And so I think kind of something else that we were talking about a little bit before the podcast in terms of like apathy and what could be coming is like all of us like to travel here and all of that. And I think potentially like an apathy for travel could be something that happens in 2021 with the fact that in 2020 we're all just chilling at our houses, not traveling and things like that. And so people have gotten into this habit of not traveling, of staying at home. And I can see that even in me. Like for perspectives for the nonprofit and just for seeing friends, I traveled a lot in 2019. And in 2020 and staying home, I saw that my mindset was shifted to where it was default. Oh, I'm just staying at home. I'll just watch football or I'll just chill, whatever. Rather than in 2019, it was like a default. Oh, I want to travel. I want to go outside of my comfort zone. I want to explore new things. I want to go on my own adventures with the Father. And so I think it'll be interesting to see what this year will be like. But I think like something that we would offer up to you if you'd be able to give any sort of encouragement to anyone out there of, whatever their comfortabilities are surrounding the pandemic and traveling, not traveling, seeing people, not seeing people, what encouragement you would give to people in terms of just going out and living life, making the most of life in 2021. Yeah. And going on an adventure with God.
Yeah, I think first, before saying that, I think something that I guess we can all relate to in some way is to describe a little bit more where the apathy came from. How everybody, especially just from all these people talking about 2020 vision, but saying it because it sounded good rather than they got a word from the Lord. Yeah. And so I think in a lot of ways, for a lot of people, and not just that, but like in a bunch of different ways, that whether from that or just whatever New Year's resolutions people might have, I think at times we can build up, I guess, unrealistic expectations or false hopes and then end up disappointed and discouraged, or even like mad at God because of things that we expected, and that leads to apathy spiritually or relationally or in our work life or whatever it might be. That's like tough to fight against, not just from disappointments, but also just from like trials and tests when like waves and winds continue to crash against us. It's like they're not stopping. Like, what are we gonna do? And it's in those times it's really difficult to continue to lean on God and just remain in Him. That's been extremely hard for me, especially like my time in LA. I'm not gonna get into the story, but there's a lot of stuff that ultimately I kind of that led me to stop really spending more quality, quiet, one-on-one time with God and trusting in Him as much as I did, or at least as much as I thought I did before I came out here. But like, one thing a friend reminded me is like the faith that's tested is a faith that can be trusted. And so if it's not tested, then
you're unsure.
Yeah, then it's fill in the blank.
Self-explanatory.
So with the apathy thing, I think part of, I guess, a cure for that is changing our perspective to understanding that God allows tests to come into our lives. Like, 2020 was a major testing period for all of us to test where we are really at, where our faith really lies, where our desires really lie, where our hopes really lie. And anything outside of Him is burned up, And so recognizing that not as just like a place of disappointment or where God didn't meet us or fell short, but where He was drawing us closer to Him to be like, hey, look over, like, pay attention. I'm over here. I'm not in, like, He's always with us, but He's not necessarily in that thing that we're pursuing or wanting to lead us in that direction. He's trying to lead us somewhere else. So I think there might be a general apathy. And so with that, people might not want to travel and continue to stay inside because they're just kind of feeling hopeless. So whether it's a lack of desire for travel or continuing to pursue what was on your heart when you were a kid, like the dreams that you had when you were younger that were just from that really pure, genuine place, or whatever hopes or promises that God's placed on your life, I think to get back to a place of encouragement and hope, we definitely need community, but also just to recognize that, like, God's still with us, and all these things that we've experienced that have led to this apathy all have purpose. And even the things that God didn't necessarily do, I don't think God makes everything happen but the things that He allows to happen, He gives purpose. For example, I don't think it was like wars, like a lot of wars or certain injustices that people do against other people. God didn't purpose for that to happen. He didn't intend for these things to happen. In fact, Genesis 50:20, what the enemy intended for our harm, God uses for our good. Like, I think He gives everything purpose. That's what Romans 8:28 is saying. But recognizing that all this stuff God can redeem and will redeem, so that we can turn our apathy into hope and despair into joy and our discouragement into trust again. And I think that being the core will encourage people to want to travel or do whatever again. So I don't think I directly answered your question, but it was more like,
no, that's good.
You said no, you didn't?
I was saying don't worry about it. It's good.
Okay. I was about to say, I don't think you answered this question. You might need to do that again. But I think about like James. He talks about, we as people, we become very arrogant in the sense, right? That's the word. I don't think that's the word he uses, but we say, in this year, I'm going to go do this. I'm going to go to this city. I'm going to do this, that, and the other. He's like, you don't even know if tomorrow's promised to you.
Yeah.
Right. So instead, the thought is, if God wills, then we will do this. We'll go into this city. And I think that has been lost a lot of times. And if anything, 2020 showed me, anyways, was like all the different plans, different things that we thought for our lives. God was like, no. Right. All of our own schedules and all those different things just completely stopped. Right. It made me realize how little I have, little of an impact I have in impacting the future.
Control.
What comes and control, impact. Control. How small of control I have over my own life. So it's a good thing to trust in God, right? It's a good thing to trust in Him because anything can happen, right? You can find yourself doing something one day, and the next day you're like, I don't even know how I got here, And so really just learning to trust in God, whether we're traveling or in the work situation or whatever that might be. So what does that look like, for you, like learning to trust in God and just being in California, building relationships, being community, creating and things of that nature?
Mm-hmm. What does it look like to trust in God with everything? I think not trying to figure stuff out. That's one big thing. I think it's good to plan ahead as long as we plan with like open hands,
Right.
like set our plans with open hands. But I've kind of, in some ways, gotten away. Like I still have dreams and desires and things that I want to do, and like ways that I'm working towards them. But I've in some ways let go of like my plan ideas for like a 5-year plan or stuff like that. Like it's the whole reason why I'm in LA right now. Actually, was there was this seminar I got to be a part of back in summer of 2017. I've just graduated college in May 2017, and then at the beginning of August, I was doing this seminar. I was a month out from starting my master's at NYU in the film production program. And I did this like quick seminar with this dude named Dave Evans, really cool, like intelligent guy. He's a professor at Stanford. He teaches this 13-week class called Designing Your Life, and gave me and like a few other students or like recent graduates a 3-hour version of that class. And in it, he gave us this worksheet where he told us to fill out our 5-year plan, how we see it right now. We had like 10 minutes to do it. I was like, oh snap, I never thought about this before. But I mean, it's pretty easy. I'm going to NYU, so first year, NYU, second year, NYU, third year, NYU, fourth year, thesis film, fifth year, Sundance, Cannes, all that. I'm good.
Yeah.
But in the back of my mind, as I was writing it out, I was kind of like suppressing this thought. It just kind of ignored it, brushing it off. It kept just coming up to my ear. I was like, yeah, don't get out of here.
Yeah.
It was just this thought that like, oh, this is kind of bland. This is what I've always wanted to do, but I don't know. And it was at the time. And then it had been for like a few years at that point. So I like pretty much first got into college.
Yeah.
And then he goes, all right, for 5-year plan number 2, you see that next row down? Yeah. Pretend 5-year plan number 1 is dead. Now what are you gonna do? And I was like, hold on, what? Yeah. There is no plan 2. This was plan 2. 5, 19? What you mean? And so as I started writing it out, I was like being reminded of all this stuff that I desired to do from the time I was like really young, that God had put on my heart from the time I was like a preteen. And I was like, okay, this is something that I want to do. Time-wise, I'm not really sure. I guess I'll put it here. This is something else I want to do. I think this is something I remember you placed on my heart a while ago, but I mean here. And what's crazy is I had no control over these plans, but they've like, a lot of them have come about just as I've like taken it day by day with those things in mind and knowing what I guess God wants me to do in the present, what he's or not not always necessarily what he wants me to do, but what he's just placed in front of me to steward, try to draw an analogy off the top of my head, like a farmer or something. If he's given some seeds, or somebody who's just meant to take care of the grounds of somebody's house, right? They're giving like some seeds or an allowance of money, like, hey, make a beautiful garden. That's your job. All right, cool. I guess or you got some seeds, or I'm gonna go buy some. Okay, I can make a row of this right here. That's cool. All right, I'll do this. Maybe some parasite comes and takes up some of the crops, so then you got to deal with that. But like, you just 5 years down the road, maybe you end up with a beautiful garden or something you never expected. But it's just like taking care of watering the plants and like tending to them and keeping stuff out of the garden that can harm it. Just doing the day-to-day things, and you'll end up somewhere that like you never really expected. I didn't expect to have like millions of followers all across social media. When I decided not to go to NYU, I was just kind of like, this is some stuff that's on my heart, I guess. All right, let's take a step forward, and then another one, and then another one. And the more I've just continued to trust him, and even in the midst of confusion and all that, as I've put down the idea of trying to figure everything out, stuff is kind of made more sense. So, yeah.
No, I mean, that's Yvonne and I were actually talking about that earlier. There's this thought of, trying to figure out what your calling is or what God's purpose for you. And you can get this vision from him and trying to figure that out. But it's oftentimes he's not going to tell you any of those things. It's that you taking step by step by step. And as you do that, then he starts revealing different things, right? I was listening to Pastor Tony Evans, and he was talking about how your faith is shown in your steps, right? If it's to walk out the door, you had to take those steps of faith to actually walk out the door. And it's a lot of times it's like, okay, God, show me the ultimate picture, the big picture. He's like, I'm not going to do that. He doesn't do that.
Y'all ever ask your dads, like, y'all ever have an experience where like your dad tells you to go on a trip with you or like come get in the car and you're like, where are we going? He's like, don't worry about it.
Oh yeah.
You ever had that before?
My dad told me to drive. I'm like, where we going? Just drive. I'm like,
That's
what's that mean? I don't know where I'm
14
going.
hours later, we're in Florida.
Yeah, you end up like,
what?
And then you had like Disney World all of a sudden. But like, I don't know. I guess it's just like a fatherly thing to do. I'm probably gonna be like that too. Like, don't worry about it. Matter of fact, I did that with my brother this past weekend. I saw him. I got to see him this past weekend. I was just like, hop in the car, we go somewhere. Where we going? Don't worry about it. Go to see a friend. And he was shocked to see who it was because he really looks up to him. But continue what you're saying.
I don't even remember what I was saying. No, I'm joking. Yeah, but God doesn't always show us the ultimate picture, at all. So it's really learning to trust him in every step of the way. Whether it's, the podcast and just where he's taking us, and the organization, I should even say, or just anybody who's listening, right? It's very important to get in the point where we're just learning to trust and take those steps, because he made Joseph, like you mentioned earlier, he showed him a vision of, his brothers bowing down to him, but he didn't show him all the steps along the road, right? It was just, I find myself in jail. I don't know why I'm here. This doesn't look like nobody bowing down to me.
Dang.
But knowing that God is still with you in the middle of wherever you might be.
I wonder, I seriously wonder if Joseph ever complained.
See, Joseph is one of my favorite Bible people.
I probably would have.
Because I don't see him complaining in the midst of any of that, which is crazy.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, if he did, it's not recorded, but.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
Because he's still very human, but.
Because I think it's possible, but as well, I don't know if he would have got to where he was if he didn't have that good perspective, from the father at that point. Because you can't get to that point without with a heart of resentment or questioning or something like that. You have to be willing to sacrifice. So you have to trust that whatever the long term is, even if you don't know it is for your good, even if you're just focusing in the moment, and from there potentially take risks, which I mean, I'm sure he did a lot of in that time, and even taking up the position with the Pharaoh. I'm sure that was something where it's is this dude really can I trust him, or is he gonna kill me? That kind of stuff, and so I'm sure even that simple step was a risk. And then whenever his family came and he was like, oh, yo, I'm your little brother. At that point, he didn't know if their heart was filled with resentment and they were just going to try to riot and stick him with a pitchfork, although I doubt those were a thing back then.
Oh, no. I don't think they were even considering doing that. This man was second to the king.
That would have been bad.
But I mean, if I was a family member, it's just you've been missing for this long. I would potentially been freaking out. What are you doing? And so basically it's just interesting of this, because there's this philosopher Kierkegaard that has this idea of a leap of faith that really changed my thought on it. Is oftentimes when we think of taking a leap of faith, we think it's literally jumping to another land to where we know what that land entails. We're jumping over a river, so we know the other side of the land entails, us continuing our journey or whatever. But oftentimes a leap of faith, we don't know what's on the other side until we actually take the leap. And we can't know until we do it. Yeah. And it's a very similar thing. It's a kind of a tangent, but very similar sort of thing to commitment. We don't know what comes with commitment until we actually commit to it.
Yeah.
And one of the biggest things is a marriage is like, if you leave the door open to a divorce in marriage, it's something you're never going to know the fullness of marriage if that is still somewhat open in your mind. You have to fully commit and be like, hey, we're not getting out of this to be able to bear the fruit, to have the conflict resolution and all of that comes with it. And then all the good and the blessing that comes from that. And so I think it's really interesting because, like, yeah, man, I'm sure, I mean, I think all young adults deal with it a little bit because we're out here trying to prove ourselves, especially in America, of, oh, you know, I need to get to this point at this stage and I need to get to like what I think here. And it's something that hit me, ironically enough, college graduation. I was doing like an Instagram post, like thanking friends and stuff like that. And this thought came to my mind of like different than I expected, but far greater than I ever imagined. And that's something that I think is a common theme with the Father is like, hey, like this is going to look a lot different than what we thought in our mind. But at the same time, if we trust him and like pursue that first, pursue his kingdom first, like good is going to come from there. The good is defined by him, not us. And we have to buy into that. Another leap of faith, but it's good.
Man, to talk about like trying to get somewhere or wanting ourselves to mature out of a certain season faster than or sooner than what we're ready for. Man, I'm so in that right now, bro. Man. And then to take it back to the Joseph story, it just makes you like one thing I think is often overlooked about God's patience with us is like Joseph was so hurt by like that's an understatement, by his brothers selling him into slavery. First, they're ready to kill him, but only like I don't remember who, but one of the brothers was like, maybe not. Let's
not do that.
Let's
think about it
do
one more
something
time.
else real quick. And so they sell him into slavery, and he's like, you know, just gone for 13 years. He finally gets this come up that he's been waiting for. But still, what I find was really interesting, he had 2 sons, and he named them after his experiences. Like, I can't remember exactly what their names meant, but I think one, it just indicated that there was like some level of resentment or like healing that he still needed to go through that he didn't even experience until like 10 to 15 years later when his family finally came because they were struggling with the famine. And like we see him like in scripture, it talks about how this dude was like had to go to another room like at least twice to just weep because he was so hurt and he thought he was angry. He thought about like getting them back, and God knew all of this too, but was still with him in it. We'll think like there are times where I've thought like, God, why haven't I still gotten over this yet? Like what's going on? But I don't think there's ever, or at least most of the time, there isn't just going to be like one conversation that we have or one experience where we'll get over it. Or a lot of times we'll think we're over something or past something or mature to a certain level, but we're not. And that's not a time to get angry at ourselves or impatient with ourselves because God's so patient with us. And I think that's another great side of God's character that can be shown in Joseph's life.
Yeah,
he allows that incremental progress through his patience. That's so good.
Yeah, I mean, go ahead. No, even just because we do
that was
have
such
like
a podcast moment, right?
It was, wasn't it? Yeah. Who's gonna go next?
We're gonna fully embrace this.
Yeah. Even there's almost that. What do Christians love saying? Microwave and what's the is it oven and microwave? Is that the analogy?
I mean, those are appliances, yes.
I mean,
we got a couple of them joints in my kitchen.
Yeah, they're appliances, but that's the analogy.
What about a blender?
Right?
I just got a new blender recently. Really? Yeah,
air fryer too.
My birthday.
Ninja.
Multivitamin, I think, something like that. I can't remember. It's a smaller one. It's personal. Go ahead.
No, I don't even remember where I was at. The process of waiting and cooking. You know, you can cook in the microwave or in the blender. Joking. You know, in the
smoothies.
Oven.
Yes, like smoothies.
No,
I make some bomb smoothies, but I make some
bomb
smoothies. Just saying,
okay.
Really good
smoothie king. Yeah. Yeah, and then so going back to that, but there's this process of waiting that you kind of find yourself in. Who was it? I think in Hebrews 11 it talks about
The Hall of Faith.
Joseph, your boy Joseph.
Young
He
Joe.
had such a faith that it says that, when you guys get out of Egypt, take my bones with you. Right, that's the kind of faith that he had.
They was like, "What you mean get out of
like,
Egypt?"
That's kind of weird, right? I'm just going to
talking
take your bones and just carry it with us.
Man.
But he had faith and he saw that. And the Bible says that when they left, they took his bones.
Dang.
And I'm like, that's such a crazy thing, but it speaks to, just something that God can reveal to you that some people might not even understand. But that can come years down the line. And I think it's good for people to even see God may give you a vision. It might not even be for you. Right? That's the hard one. Like, you giving me a vision that you want me to work towards, pray towards, and do all these things, but it's not even for me. It might be for my children. It might be for the next person down the line or whatever. I think that's a hard thing for people to grasp and receive, that you're doing all these things for God, but it's not for you. But then it's okay, because we're not supposed to be receiving glory in these different things, but we like to receive glory, right? Because we want to be the man in our own little story, right? But what did the Christians say? It's his story, right? That's the whole history thing. But it's good to really be in a place of seeing, like, okay, I have to learn patience in the midst of whatever it is that he has me doing, whether it's the days of small beginning that you mentioned earlier. That was a good verse that he said earlier.
Zephaniah joint.
Was it Zephaniah? I
It's just one of those I pull out of the memory bank.
Yeah,
I want to say 4:13.
That's definitely not it. But
Because I'm probably thinking of Philippians 4:13. So probably not.
that's the Philippians 4:13. But yeah, no, I love that you mentioned there's that process. It's Ecclesiastes. There's that process that did I get that right? The days of small beginnings.
Ecclesiastes?
It's 4:10.
Of what?
What did he say?
Oh, snap.
I said 4:13. I was
3
close.
verses
Yeah,
off.
good
That's
job,
crazy.
man.
Hey, there we go.
You get points for that.
Yeah, you get one. He's a super Christian, so yeah.
One of the 5 verses I've memorized. Let's not act
I
like
got
I'm
about
super
4
over here.
verses in me, and then after that, I got to start using
Says Hebrews 11. What is this?
Huh?
Romans 8:28. What is this?
You quoted a whole chapter, bro.
What?
What you talking about? You said Hebrews 11, the Hall of Faith.
The Hall of Faith. See, he even knows the titles and everything.
That's
See,
the
I just
nigga-
read the verses, but you're a super Christian. Like, you talking about the titles and
He knows the
everything. That's crazy.
No, it's like a play on words, like Hall of Fame, Hall of.
I don't know about that.
no.
Well, what's the title for
right.
John? Is it the first John chapter 1? John chapter 1.
What, in the beginning
I
was
don't
the
know.
word?
I don't know. It depends on who translated. Which translation we read? We reading the
How
ESV.
many translations are there?
Using the
We reading
message.
the hood version.
The hood version. What? What's the hood version?
No, that's it. That's it. Shout out to my friend. Actually, he makes he makes stories from scripture, like in comic form, but with memes and pop culture and anime references all throughout. It's mad funny.
Can we get a couple?
Yeah, it's
Okay, yeah.
at individual, but it's spelled INDAVID.
No, I mean, can we get a couple verses?
UALL. Oh,
Well, give him a shout out
Oh, I'm
too.
sorry.
Yeah,
give
he
us a shout
deserves
out.
it.
Yeah, go ahead, my fault.
INDAVIDUALL. Individual, spelled with David, but you all like that.
Bet. And then a couple examples.
You have to see him. You gotta check him out.
I love it.
It's worth
Cliffhanger.
it.
I love it.
Yeah.
So
Call to action.
Call to
Link in description.
Yeah.
he's a mini genius over here. Goodness.
It's what I do for a living.
So I think as we start to land the plane here, we can go back a little bit more into your wheelhouse.
Okay.
Of comedy. Being a funny guy. Sometimes.
You already know.
What we're interested in is this idea that I've been stewing on for a little bit, is like in a world of like
In a world.
that's growing more.
I knew you wasn't going to be able to hold it. Yeah.
We in Jurassic Park here?
Yeah.
That is becoming more and more politically correct, and cancel culture is becoming more of a thing.
Yeah.
And it seems like we have a more of an emphasis on sensitivities and feelings than previous generations. I'm interested to see, given that, what are some of the ways that you approach comedy in either a private setting or a public setting, and how you use that in general and how you have those boundaries, how you, this is like 10 questions in one, but I'm gonna keep going.
Yeah.
How you maybe go about controversial conversations, tough conversations that way. Because something we discussed beforehand is like, I think it is something, comedy is something that I think God gave us to potentially think about and talk about these interesting and like tough subjects.
Mm-hmm. There's a lot of ways I feel like I can answer that question. Let me see.
Questions.
Yeah, I think comedy as a tool is just like a kind of like, just to reiterate what you said a little bit. It's a great way to have discussions. It's an open door to have discussions about difficult topics that would typically make people feel really uncomfortable or tend to avoid or sweep under the rug.
Mm-hmm.
But doing them in a direct way that's very lighthearted. It's like pitching a ball at somebody, but very gently, and it kind of just like floats towards them, and maybe like a bubble just pops on their face.
SpongeBob.
And you're able to, something like that. Yeah. Shout out to SpongeBob. Only seasons 1 through 3 though. Everything after that, trash. Not sorry. Yeah, how do I use comedy though to approach these topics? I mean, a lot of times I'll just be direct. It depends on how I'm feeling, or what I'm feeling led to do from situation to situation. Like, I did a video about, like, I think my first IGTV video was about like an analogy about sexual assault. It wasn't really comedic, I'd say, but it was lighthearted, and I used an analogy to describe or try to explain to people what it might feel like for somebody to take advantage of you. And it reached a bunch of people, and the people were able to receive it because it was just like, okay, sexual assault is bad, and here's why, and this is what happens, and here are statistics, and this is very heavy, and it's weighing you down, it's making you feel overwhelmed. Like, nah, just like, okay, this is the deal, blah, blah, blah. And that like opens the door for people to be like, oh, snap, I never seen it that way. And they can enjoy watching it, and then it like kind of lets their guard down, and maybe even encourage them to go look into it even more, or like have a conversation with a friend, or open up about themselves, or open about the experience they've had, or like ask somebody else about theirs. And it helps people to be vulnerable. I think comedy does a great job of helping people be vulnerable. So like in like this politically and racially charged climate, it's like, especially in America recently, I know there's like a lot of people whose platforms are much more dedicated to kind of like, there's a couple of names I'm not going to mention, but there's like one person in particular that's coming to mind, who will take like, for example, he did a sketch on like the whole Capitol Hill situation. And he took like, he'll go so far, but clearly be really funny about it. It's not like he's trying to tell people what to think or anything like that, but he'll over-exaggerate exactly what happened and just say stuff as it is. And it's kind of like he's become cancel-proof for doing that, because he's not trying to hide anything, but being direct about it through comedy. Again, it's a way to just kind of let people's guards down, disarm them, to open up the door for conversations. But I don't know. I'm not as bold with using comedy to talk about tough topics. I'll usually take a more like direct approach. Yeah. Is there a follow-up question?
No, there is.
Which one do you want?
I thought you were finishing.
Which one do you want to go?
Yeah, no, I was just gonna. So I mean, I'm sure a lot of people are probably curious about this one.
All right.
2 questions. One, do you personally feel like you're funny? Right. And the second question is a super Christian question. Like, I always wonder, like in my own imagination, I'm like, does God laugh at my jokes? Or is he just shaking his head like, what is this guy doing? So yeah.
I like this question. Yeah, I think I'm funny. Yeah, I like, there are videos that I'll make, or like things that I'll say, or conversations that I'll have with myself, where I'll just start busting out laughing by myself.
Yeah,
by myself. That is like where, like, I'll be writing something or making a video, and I'm just like, oh, I'm enjoying this. I really love those moments, because like in those times, I'm just not thinking about results or anybody else at all. I'm just like, I'm just having fun, enjoying just me, you know? God definitely laughs at my jokes, bro. For sure. Not all of them. Like, you know that meme where the dude's looking out the side of his eyes, like, there's times where where guys definitely like that. I'm like, okay, let me pull back for a bit. Because I don't know how many times I've thought of things that would be so freaking hilarious, but they're just inappropriate. Like I really try to be careful and mindful about what I say, because I'm still here to steward the platform. There's a level of seriousness to it, and there's like a weight to it. But God has a sense of humor, man. He is funny. Like, he's got to be like, think about the funniest person you know. God created that person's sense of humor, you know? Like, one thing I'm really excited for in heaven, bro, is like, I imagine, like, I just want to watch a huge compilation of all the moments that we, like, the funniest videos to me are like the types of things where people just so happen to be recording at that moment.
How did those people
You know what I mean?
Moments? Yeah.
Imagine how many were just missed all throughout history. I remember there was like one time when it was so random. My mom was driving me and my brothers to school, and we were being dropped off in the carpool lane, and I saw this squirrel as we were like coming into the driveway. Like the car would inch forward as people get out the car and move, or whatever. And I was just observing the squirrel scale up the side of the building, like it was just a plastered wall or something like that up the side outside. And right before it got to the top, it was like starting to slip, and it just just dove off. And it was kind of like, I don't know if y'all ever seen Ice Age, but like how Scrat would be in the background and stuff. The little, like, trying to get the acorn. With the acorn. Just as we were like driving past the corner of the wall, like, I just barely missed it, see it hit the ground or fall into a bush or something. But I just thought it was like so funny. Like, nobody else saw that. Yeah. There have been so many things like that out of the thousands and thousands of years that the earth has existed. I just want to see a compilation of all those funny moments. Animals only. Humans can be like another compilation, but God knows what makes me laugh too. Like, it'll just be a dope thing to witness, you know? So to answer your question in short, too long didn't read or too long didn't listen version. Yes, I think I'm funny. Yes, I think God thinks I'm funny. And to add another one, I think God appreciates all of our senses of humor. Because anything that we find funny, I think he finds joy in. I can imagine having a son and just seeing him laugh and giggle. I'll like be laughing right there with him, you know?
Hopefully this question doesn't get you in trouble.
Uh-oh.
Do you think girls are funny?
Let me chill. All right, who we talking? We talking about like my crush or something? Because she's hilarious.
In general.
Any crush I got is hilarious. No, I'm playing. No, women are funny. That's an interesting question.
You feel like our humors are just different?
Yeah, I think our humor's different, man. I don't know. It's weird. One of my cousin Brooke, she is freaking hilarious. Like, every other word out her mouth is just so funny. But I think, I don't know. Male stand-up comedians tend to be much more, like, get much more attention and much more popular than female stand-up comedians. Maybe it's an expectation thing. Maybe it's, I don't know. I don't want to say, like, just attribute that to straight up testosterone and estrogen. Right, that's just weird. I'm not really sure why we perceive women and men differently in terms of when it comes to humor. But you know what? I think part of it is like by natural selection.
What?
Guys have had to listen, hear me out. Guys have had to learn to be funny in order to win women over. How often you see like uglier dudes with fine girls? Yeah. You know? Because they gotta be funny. You know they hilarious. I'm just playing, bro.
Wow.
I'm joking.
Yeah, I hope there's research on this. I'm not really sure. But
we might need to put your site that you sorted down in the description.
That was a Chaz theory.
But what was that you were saying about your crush? I mean, I don't know.
What you talking about? I didn't say that.
No, if you want to plug in so we can. Your crush.
I was just speaking in general.
In general. So you
I was speaking in general.
Orange Crush?
Yeah, soda. Yeah. Soda. Soda's hilarious.
Yeah. Can't do this. I love it.
I was trying to help. Now that you need it, I just. since we're here, might as well talk about
You
it.
got any more questions that you want to put me on the spot? Give me canceled with?
Actually, I think we got
Game
one
time.
more because we'll end with a little game here.
All right.
With some listener questions.
Ooh.
I don't have my phone, so we're gonna call the bullpen. We're gonna bring Alex down.
Yeah.
Alex, come
Let's
ask
go,
your boy a
Alex.
question.
All right.
Is this for me or for?
No, this is for Chaz.
Oh,
This is for
not that.
Chaz. Okay. Let's try to think.
You've had all day to think about this.
Who is your favorite comedian?
I really
Interesting last question.
I really like Dave Chappelle.
Ooh, you got
There we go.
I really like Dave Chappelle a lot because, like if did y'all watch his 846
Special.
Yeah. What was so amazing about that is like it wasn't just stand-up comedy. I think the greatest comedians, and I don't really call myself a comedian. I just think I joke around and goof around a lot and people enjoy it. But I think the greatest stand-up comedians are able to all they really do is look at things from a very unique perspective, articulate it in a way that's very relatable to us, and say it in a humorous way. Like him describing and relating George Floyd's death to lasting 9 minutes to the 30-second experience he had in an earthquake was just so brilliant, but so simple to understand. But he said something that like nobody else would think of. Like who would draw connections between those two things? But it made so much sense. He's just a really intelligent guy. Yeah, and I respect him a lot for that. Content-wise, like that's another conversation, but like he deserves respect for sure. Like he has a really brilliant mind. I think that points back to God too. Yeah, Dave Chappelle's dope.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah, I love comedians. I feel even as somebody who, I preach occasionally, I love how just admiring the way that they're able to remember everything, on the spot, just be able to, say everything that they remembered and practice and rehearse, and it just comes out flawlessly.
Yeah.
It's like, man, that's, for somebody like myself, I'm like, man, I look up to these guys. Like, man, that's crazy. Do we have more questions or was that?
I think that's good.
You sure we don't? Anybody else?
This is one of the long ones.
Hey, this is a good one. Do you have any last things you want to share,
Or do
just
you have
in
any
general?
questions, or?
Who else are y'all looking to get on the podcast? Or who would you like to? Who are like some? I would love to see tap this person on the podcast.
That is a good question.
That's a great question. I'll let you go first.
Just because we've been talking with Pat and Montel about it, I'd love to get Raul, What Up RG, and Gavi on to be able to talk a little bit about Hispanic culture. And just something that we love is just to see how cultures interact. And I would love to see what they think American culture could learn from Hispanic culture and what Hispanic culture could learn from American culture. I know those two definitely. You say your answer while I think about some others.
There's a pastor. His name is Pastor Robert Madu.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, over there in
Dallas.
Social Club. Yeah, in Dallas. I think it would be a great conversation. With him talking about his African heritage.
That dude's a comedian.
He is.
For sure.
He is. So I think that would be a really, really good conversation to be able to have. I'm trying to think who else. I jokingly one day talked about having Dak Prescott on. I'm not really sure
You're
why.
gonna have him do
the
exercise.
Yeah, well, I mean, Chase is pretty good at that. So I think.
We still working on it.
Yeah. So I think it would be cool to have him on too. I'm trying to remember. This is a really good question. Usually we don't get asked questions, so that's kind of why.
Put us
we're a
on the
little bit
spot.
stuck. Yeah. We don't know how to answer
Which camera?
questions.
Which one?
All of them.
All of them. Boom. 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 All right, dude. Cool.
Man, that was perfect. Well, man, that was awesome. One
Ooh.
more? Okay.
Una más.
What kind of flavor of lady are you looking for? Are you looking
What
for
kind of
that?
question?
Oh.
Alex, it's a little
Are
too
you
late.
Oh.
What kind kind
Oh,
of
that goes into
flavor?
that orange crush
Latinas,
thing. Yeah.
Asians.
What?
That
bro?
goes into that
Blacks,
orange crush thing. Yeah, yeah,
Oh,
yeah, yeah.
man.
Great question, Alex.
Man, as long as I can look at it and just be like, wow, that's the flavor. Like, amazing. The wow flavor. There you go. I do like height though. I will say that. I really do like height.
Hey, yeah, you want your kids to make varsity? I feel you.
Hey, go to the
understand.
league, bro. What you mean?
Yeah, like
Go to
6'7",
go to the
6'8".
league, man.
Yeah.
Yo, my mom is 5'4".
Oh.
My dad is 6'10". No cap. Not even a little bit.
All right,
Yeah, anyway.
love it. So,
Did you ask that question, bro?
Yeah,
dude, I think that's the perfect way to end.
All right.
that was good. Yeah, man, thanks for coming on. This is probably one of our more comedic episodes,
Hopefully.
podcasts, and all that.
99% though.
Yeah,
99?
what the kids call it, Cap? Yeah.
Stop the
I
cap.
love it.
Captain Crunch.
Yeah.
Captain America. Captain Falcon. All right, that's enough. That's all I got.
Yeah.
Just those three.
And Chase really worked on his jokes beforehand on the play. He was like, "What you think about this one?" I'm like, "You got it, dude." So
Why you putting this man on the
no,
spot?
I'm
like
happy
that?
for him.
Hey.
You know, it's
I will admit one.
yeah. Which one?
One I tried to prepare for. I'm not going to say which one.
Okay.
Won't publicly disclose.
I'm
that.
sure I already
they'll
know
have
which
to
one
figure it out.
is, but yeah, we'll put a poll down at the bottom. Let them figure it out.
Goodness.
Are we still gonna play a game?
Huh?
Are we still gonna play a game?
Oh
Sorry, I
yeah,
kinda-
yeah.
I
So
kinda
you wanted to
wanted
do
honestly.
so back in my day when I was doing
Can I
my
popcorn? We good?
Instagram.
Yeah. No.
The what?
Yeah, yeah.
All right. Just make sure. All
As long as you got time.
right. Cool.
Hey,
Game time. Let's go. I'm
we
competitive.
rolling. We're on cut.
competitive.
We got this.
Rolling what?
Audio,
You have to-
video,
rolling the video.
Oh, okay. I don't know what you guys are
dice.
talking about.
We rolling dice.
I was trying to end the podcast
Trying to shoot?
in the video, but we're talking about rolling dice.
Hey man, we just going with it now.
Okay. So back in my day when I was doing my Instagram stuff, I had a very small niche. A couple people.
Niche.
5. English isn't my first language, so I'm still learning how to pronounce everything.
I'm just like I hear it both ways. I
Yeah.
don't know.
I'm from Africa, so it's kind of hard.
Nick. Go ahead.
You German?
You got it. Sure. Maybe sometimes.
Okay, cool. So I did this thing where I would sing songs, but with a very thick African accent. And I probably had around this was before they start counting views. On IG, I probably had not to brag, around 70 or so. People that would tune in and had a little small following. Is that what you guys call it? A following? yeah, I had one of those. So I think Chase thought it would be cool if you could give us your best, since you have that 4th generation African background, if you can give us a little.
It ain't like that. They was Portuguese. This is Cabo Verde. That's not no.
Sim, that's
not
Portuguese,
African.
yes.
That's not
Portuguese.
African. I don't
Dude,
know. I
Portuguese.
don't know a lick of Portuguese, bro.
Yeah.
Not a lick. I don't know. I know what the work means is trabalho or something like that. That's how you say work.
I don't know.
I know trabajo is español.
Trabajo is español. Trabalho is Portuguese.
Portuguese.
Very similar, but I can speak in a British accent, something like that, bro. Do a little drill route. Drill.
Yeah, go ahead. Do a little stuff.
I need a beat though.
Oh, a beat?
This is you, Josue.
You want to go on YouTube and find the beat?
Yeah, something like a royalty free drill.
Keep
Royalty
talking
free
while
drill
I
route.
find the beat. Let me go in here.
So what?
I can't freestyle either though. That's the thing.
You can freestyle.
I could try, but I'd rather do that than like a fake Portuguese accent that I'm not even sure. You can do the beat. You could try something. You're not gonna. You gonna pull something up? I thought you were gonna pull something
You're
up.
the resident musician.
Oh, yeah, I am a musician. Let me find the beat.
Like royalty free drill beat. Just
Okay, is that
There we
on
go.
YouTube?
yeah, just
Yeah.
like search royalty
How
free
you spell
drill beat.
royalty? English
English is the first language. Remember?
I think it's spelled CHAZ, something like that.
royalty free beats. You said trap beats,
Drill beats.
drill beats. Lord,
Drill.
you got it.
Oh, thank you, Alex. Okay. I don't know what is gonna come out my mouth. I have no idea.
I'm gonna hype you up. So
Big man team.
teams.
Yeah. Oh, that's drill.
Yeah, you got
All
it.
right. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's hard to keep the accent while I'm rapping, but look.
Big man.
We just finished the podcast. We gotta get real fast. I don't know, bro.
You was good at the beginning.
I had it in like 2 seconds.
Yeah.
I had it in like 2 seconds.
After that, it was done. Yeah. Get it back.
Okay.
Yeah.
Something that they say is big man thing. I'm about to go sleeping. It's getting a little late. I'm going to the bed. And I'm gonna have dreams. No nightmares. I don't care. Whatever.
Yo, you was the first 2 seconds you got it, but then
no, I got like
that,
2 seconds.
Yeah.
Call me two-time Timmy or something, because I got like two units of time worth of like seconds of
Two-time Timmy. Okay.
Something like that worth.
Cool, man.
That's solid.
That was wonderful. Yeah. Two-time Timmy. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Right. So are we gonna end this on our third time trying to end this?
Sure.
I bet. Well,
How do we end the podcast?
Oh, so we usually got to say good things, nice things about you, and then
Words of affirmation.
Yeah,
that is my second love language.
Yeah, second love language, man.
Third, second or third, one or two, maybe tie for second.
something up there.
Yeah.
Middle of the pack.
So we've been trying to get you on the last 5 years. So, we're glad that
That's
you were
cap.
able to.
That's a whole lot of cap.
This is my time to
All right, that's Capcom.
do the cap. That's a good one. I'll give you that one.
Good list.
That's all I'm giving you. But no, man, thanks for coming on. This was probably it was very relaxing.
Yeah.
Able to joke around, have a good time, but also just
That was like
good?
my relaxing thing. Like it's just loose, I was trying to personify the words that you just see. All right, go ahead.
Symbolism. You got
so. This was such a great podcast. Video. Is there such a thing as a video cast?
Vodcast.
Vodcast.
I just made that up, but it
You
probably
better
exists
copyright
already.
that.
It probably exists already. I just thought it sounded good. Maybe subconsciously somewhere I've seen it before, but I don't know. Blog, vlog, podcast, vodcast.
We'll do our research.
All right.
And we'll report back to you.
Okay. Sounds good.
Sounds good, Kevin.
All right. It's ASMR now. Maybe. It's just devolved. So are we still saying bye or not? Like,
Yeah, I'm trying to, but you guys are still talking.
okay, my bad.
So this has been one of my more relaxing podcasts. I've been able to relax and
Relax.
Was it relaxing for you?
listen. I told you guys English isn't my first language. I'm still learning. I'm not being affirmed right now. So,
We're just affirming your rest.
ooh, rest.
You're getting a do job.
Thanks. Speaking of Hebrews chapter 4 says, therefore, that was a joke. Follow us on Instagram. I'm going to tell you the rest of what it says on Hebrews. That's it for me. I can't close it, Chase.
Yeah.
You do what you do, man.
All right, bet. Any last things you want to share before I close it?
Because I've been talking for a long time.
Yeah.
You got it.
Sounds good. Appreciate you, bro. It's been a lot of fun. We'll have you on for a round 2 soon. We'll work on
I'd
those
enjoy
drill
that.
beats. We'll work on your freestyling. It'll be good. But
Yeah.
thank you all so much for tuning in today. We'll really be linking all of Chaz's information in the description. If you want to go follow him, support him, maybe pass him along a joke so we could have some new content, although he never really runs out of it. So it'll be good. All of our information will be in the description. If you want to support the podcast, support the nonprofit, support the outreaches that we're doing. It's been a lot of fun, guys. So until next time, much love. God bless.
Love, peace, and chicken grease. Love, peace. That's what I said at the end of my YouTube video. All right, bye.